Let's talk about the time Deadpool killed the Marvel Universe. This is a story that you might not be used to seeing in Marvel. This is darker. I'm going to break down the entire comic book down with the backstory and then go through kill by kill in multiple parts. Let's get into it. The story starts off with the Watcher, who is a being that can see in all universes and worlds, but chooses not to interfere with them because it could lead to catastrophic events. He brings us into a darker universe. We see the X-Men rolling Deadpool into a hospital while he begs to get let go. Xavier goes to the doctor and the doctor says to him that there's no need to worry. His methods are unorthodox but successful. Xavier replies with, well, Deadpool is a unique case. Without knowing what they've done, the X-Men gave Deadpool to a villain known as Psycho Man, who is in the brain of this doctor. Psycho Man begins this intense treatment on Deadpool, and something to know about Deadpool is he has 3 voices in his head. A funny one that shows up in yellow boxes, a serious one in white, and his own. As he's feeling this pain, all he can do is scream, while the other voices scream with him and say, he's killing you. He's killing us. After Deadpool yells out, the pain is over, and the doctor says he's all done. Then a red voice box shows up and says,
hello, Wade.
Deadpool then breaks out of his straitjacket, takes the Psycho Man out of the doctor's head, and then smushes him. The red voice box then shows up again and says,
Good. You've killed one of them. Finish the job.
Deadpool begins to walk across Ravencroft Asylum, pouring gasoline all over the building, while hearing the other patients beg for him to let them go. Deadpool then says to all of them, no deal, believe me, you don't want to be around for what's coming next. As Deadpool walks away from the explosion from Ravencroft Asylum, he says, not to be rude, but where are the other voices? And then the red box responds with,
don't worry about them. You don't need them anymore.
We're then brought to the Baxter Building, with the Invisible Woman holding her husband, Mr. Fantastic, in her arms as he's melting away. She mourns over his body and her dear friend Ben Grimm, also known as the Thing, who is explained to be reduced to rocks and dust. As Reed dies in her arms, she shouts for her brother Johnny and runs towards him while turning invisible. She runs in a room to see the Human Torch on the ground covered in blood. Then Deadpool appears, puts a sword to Johnny's neck and says, you put up more of a fight than I gave you credit for. Then slices his throat right in front of his sister. The blood splatters on Sue, revealing herself. Deadpool says, well, peekaboo, I'm glad you showed up. Let's see if you're half as much fun as your... He gets stopped. Over a horrible pain in his head, he begins to scream. Sue then says, I don't know why you've attacked my family, but it doesn't matter because you're not hurting anyone else, ever. Then Deadpool's head explodes. As Sue has a blank look on her face, she's suddenly stabbed through the heart by a maskless Deadpool and says, you don't run with scissors, you don't spit in the wind, and you never turn your back on a dead enemy, especially not one with a healing factor. The Watcher watches Deadpool murder the Fantastic Four and begins to narrate when he's suddenly zapped. He's confused, saying, I did not interfere. How did you... See you? Deadpool cuts him off and says, I don't see things the way the other people do. Something's wrong with me. Deadpool puts a sword to the Watcher's throat, and the red voice box says to him,
ask him.
Deadpool then looks at the comic book reader and says, who were you talking to? Then he cuts off the Watcher's head. We're brought to a newscast where a reporter shows a dead Ghost Rider, Doctor Doom, and even mentions members of the X-Men and Avengers who have been found murdered. Can anyone stop him? The reporter asked. We cut to a fight between Deadpool and Spider-Man in the sky, with Deadpool holding on to Spider-Man's ankle, trying not to fall. Spider-Man kicks him off and Deadpool goes crashing to the ground. That's gotta hurt. Good thing you have that healing factor. You're lucky I'm not like you. I don't kill you for what you've done. Do you think they would ever let you break character, even if you wanted? Deadpool said to Spider-Man. Spider-Man then grabs Deadpool and begins to lecture him. He says, your slice and dice routine hasn't served you so well, so forget about threatening to gut me. Deadpool replies with, I'm not going to gut you. He puts a gun at the bottom of Spider-Man's head and pulls the trigger. As the people of New York look at Spider-Man laying in a pool of blood, Deadpool flees the scene. That was fun! Amazing even. Who's next? Deadpool says to the red voice as he walks away.
It doesn't matter. They all have to die.
We see a small portion of the Avengers having a meeting regarding all the murders Deadpool has done. Luke Cage mentions that Deadpool has killed Black Panther, Tiger, and even his best friend Iron Fist. Wolverine pulls out his claws and he says, it's kill or be killed. Like it or not, I think we all agree that this fruitcake's gotta die, Hawkeye said. Then Jarvis runs in and informs the Avengers that Dr. Pym is missing. He explained that Dr. Pym was in his lab all day because he was concerned that Pym particles have been stolen. Pym particles? Wolverine begins to sniff and said, I know Deadpool's next target. Before he could finish, bombs began to grow from microscopic size, and before they would take cover, there was a huge explosion. Wolverine burned to the bone. Iron Man's helmet broken. Captain America's shield laying in the rubble. The Avengers, gone. Deadpool comes out with Ant-Man's helmet and says, "It's raining men. And women. And, well, bits and pieces of them anyways. Gonna take a broom and a dustpan for you guys to assemble." Luke Cage emerges from the rubble and says, "Not so fast. You need more than a couple of bombs to take down someone with unbreakable skin." "I figured a couple of you tough guys would be problematic. That's why I shrunk down a couple of extra bombs. You guys drink a lot of coffee, you know that?" Smoke begins to come out of Luke Cage's nose and ears, and he falls over. One down, one to go. Deadpool says right before Thor, the god of thunder, comes out of the rubble swinging his hammer, threatening Deadpool. I can only think of one question that matters. What's stronger, your hammer or your flesh? Thor's hammer grows and crushes Thor. What can I say? Have at thee? Deadpool stands around when the red voice box says to him,
Are you satisfied?
"Should I be?"
Never.
"I'm sorry it had to be this way. I'm sorry they don't understand. They always thought I was crazy, but they never realized I saw the world the way it really is." After the red voice box says to Deadpool,
You just killed Earth's mightiest heroes. Everything from here on out should be a piece of cake.
it cuts to a graphic image of the Hulk ripping Deadpool apart.
You hurt Hulk's friends. You kill Hulk's enemies. Only Hulk gets to kill Hulk's enemies. Hulk doesn't want to be bothered by annoying stabby man. Hulk wants to be left alone. Alone.
Hulk slowly turns back into Bruce Banner and falls asleep. "You should have ripped me apart then take a nap. You wouldn't like me when I'm ripped apart." Deadpool grabs both of his swords, then cuts off Bruce's head. As Wade looks out into the night, the red voice box says to him,
Spider-Man, the Avengers, and the Hulk, not a bad tally for a few days' work.
We are then shown a meeting going on hosted by Aunt May with other friends and family who have lost people from Deadpool, with money and jewelry and much more piled onto a table. "Why am I here?" a mysterious voice said. "I thought that was obvious. We want to hire you," Aunt May replied. We are then shown the mercenary Taskmaster. "We want you to kill Deadpool." Taskmaster replies with, "Not a problem." Taskmaster begins to break down what's been going on, showing dead bodies of Venom, Green Goblin, and many more. He deserves to die, without question, but where the hell is he? We are then brought to an abandoned building. "Psst! Professor X, wake up, Baldy. You and me have a lot to talk about." "What are you doing, Wade? You've hurt so many." You really think that? You really think any of us, can actually feel anything?" "Of course," Xavier replies to him. "Well, then this part is gonna suck for you." Deadpool stabs Xavier and says to him, "All right, now say it, just like we practiced. Say it!" In tears in Xavier's eyes, telepathically he says, "To me, my X-Men." We see members of the X-Men heading towards Xavier when Cyclops is suddenly hit with some type of goo that wraps around his head and begins to harden. As they're trying to help him, worried that he can't breathe, Cyclops tries to use his optic blast to get it off, but it only ends up creating a big blast that kills the X-Men. Xavier and Deadpool are looking at multiple monitors showing the X-Men that have just died. As Xavier looks in shock at Deadpool, Deadpool says to him, "Let's see how your other proteges are doing." We see Colossus, Gambit, and Rogue trying not to be crushed from walls that are closing in. Out of nowhere, the three of them are electrocuted and killed. We get back to Xavier and Deadpool. "Guess I'm not getting my security deposit back. Do you know how hard it is to air out the stink of electrocuted mutants?" Deadpool, please.
He wants to talk now. He's hoping if he can connect to you, he might be able to read your mind. Let him.
Deadpool says to Xavier, "Let's dish. It turns out I'm the only person in the world who sees things clearly. I just didn't realize it. It wasn't until Psycho Man messed around in my noodle where it came all together. So what if I break the fourth wall? It's been the fourth wall breaking me, crushing each and every one of us." "Enough," Xavier said to him. "I will not let you hurt anyone else. I'm shutting you down, Wade. I'm shutting your mind down. I'm going to make sure you never... Oh, I never realized." Xavier begins to cry and bleed from his nose and goes brain dead. "What's the matter, Chuck? Don't like what you saw in my head? Can't handle the truth? Let's hope what's left of your X-Men prove more entertaining." On the monitors, we see Magneto disintegrated from acid. Deadpool doesn't even kill Kitty Pryde. He traps her in a box that is basically a maze where she cannot get out of. Perpetual containment works just as well as killing, I guess. We are then shown a figure with 3 claws. Then we see Wolverine emerge from the shadows. Now wait a minute. What's this? I thought I killed him already. Well, I guess if you want to do something right, you gotta do it over and over again until it sticks. Wolverine finds a villain Arcade who has been forced by Deadpool to create everything he needs. Arcade thinks Wolverine is there to save him, but Wolverine decides to take him out of his misery and kills him. Wolverine begins to navigate the building using his nose, where he sees X-23 and Dakin hooked up to a machine. Pretty nasty, huh? Deadpool says. Computer monitors their vitals, and as soon as they start regenerate, the flamethrowers light them up. Wolverine growls at Deadpool, who we see wearing the mutant beast as a pelt. That sword doesn't make you a samurai. Maybe not, Deadpool states, but it is a carbonadium blade, and I know that wrecks your healing factor. Deadpool stabs Wolverine in the chest. I already killed you once, and I'll get you'll come back again and again, and no matter how many times I slaughter you, this has nothing to do with your healing factor. Your mutant power isn't regeneration, it's popularity. As Deadpool cuts off Wolverine's head, he continues with, I've got big plans, and all the popularity in the world can't save you this time. We're brought to the home of Doctor Strange, where we see Taskmaster walking around to discover the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, and Wong murdered. Deadpool was looking for something. We're cut to a newscaster describing what appears as an all-out war between heroes and villains. The newscaster is startled to see Daredevil slam into the pavement. He looks up and sees heroes and villains preparing for what appears as a mass suicide. We see Punisher is scoped and locked in on Deadpool and shoots him in the head and knows he has to hurry before its healing factor kicks in. Punisher sees that he actually shot and killed Puppet Master, who is dressed as Deadpool and who's been forcing the heroes and villains to kill themselves. Punisher becomes frozen. Deadpool places the Puppet Punisher gun to his head, and the real Punisher follows. Bang! Deadpool whispers, the gun goes off, and Punisher falls to the ground. After killing the Punisher, we're shown multiple dead bodies floating in space killed by Deadpool. Thanos, Silver Surfer, Nova, and more killed. We are brought to Taskmaster, who tracked Deadpool all the way to a nasty swamp. I'm done chasing you, Wade. I'll bury you so deep in this muck no one will ever find you. Maybe in time, people will forget what you've done. Taskmaster said to Deadpool's back as he finally finds him. The red voice box then says,
We don't want to be forgotten. We once have never existed in the first place.
Deadpool then says to Taskmaster, I was wondering when you'd show up. It kind of makes sense as being the last stand and all. As Taskmaster and Deadpool's swords clash together, Taskmaster says, There's only one thing I have to offer you. A mercy killing. That's it. Let's fight. We'll never settle anything with talking, Deadpool shouts at him. All these years, everyone thought I was just a lovable goofball. A homicidal goofball, sure, but a goofball. But I can see through all of this BS and see the world how it really is. The hero's journey is just about pain. As they continue to fight, Deadpool continues to talk. Don't you get it? We're puppets. Don't you ever shut up? Taskmaster asked him.
That's it. His muscle memory is kicking in, his reflexes mimicking yours. Let his eyes open to our gospel.
Shut up, Taskmaster replies to the red voice.
He can hear me.
Of course I can hear you. You won't shut up. Deadpool looks at Taskmaster's eyes and says, You always said that once you start imitating someone, you could anticipate the next move. So tell me, what's next? Taskmaster then realized what is about to come. Careful, don't be scared, because whoever knows fear burns at the Man-Thing's touch. The Man-Thing emerges and grabs Taskmaster's head and burns him, killing him in one blow. Look at ya, you poor bastard, Deadpool says to Man-Thing, knowing that he stands guard of all creation. I bet you can sense why I'm here. I'm here to set you free. All you need to do is open the door for me. The red box then says to Deadpool,
One monster understands what the other is trying to accomplish. Man-Thing's flesh is the key to the gate. He sacrifices himself for our cause. Don't mess it up.
A bright light appears, and Wade says, This is it, huh? The end of the road?
No, this is only the beginning. You have your work cut out for you.
Deadpool begins to see alternate worlds and timelines, but doesn't go to those. The red box tells him to find the center point of existence. Deadpool finds himself in a closet. He hears the writers debating on how to finish the comic. Then Deadpool appears into the room and sees us hard at work. Deadpool then turns to the reader and says, Hey, I see you out there, watching. But don't worry, I'll be done with these jokers in this universe before you know it. I'll find you soon enough.